Okay. Thank you for all coming to the regularly scheduled City Council meeting Tuesday, November 15th, 6 p.m. Would you please join us for Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilor Jeff Bergman.
You're not yet.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Bergman,
here.
Nichols, Osborne,
Here.
Siebel,
Here.
Smock.
Here.
Before we approve the November 15th, 2022 agenda, I would like to request, since soon-to-be Sergeant Ben Newman, I would like to move up his swearing from item 13 up to just below item 6, or item 6, swearing in of officers. The reason I put it below there, it was a technicality because of the resolution actually appointing him as sergeant. So I was wondering if council would be in agreement as he is on duty tonight.
Fine with me.
Me too.
Second.
Okay? So I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion as amended. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 5, approval of the November 1st, 2022 regular meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, actually, that's a roll call. I'm sorry.
Okay. Osborne,
Yes.
Siebel,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Okay, number 6, we have Chief Teen, who's going to be swearing in officers Jared Engel, Dalton Empley, and Sergeant Ben Newman.
So, Officer Engel first.
Can you take
You
pictures?
raise your right hand, or you just allow me to answer in the affirmative. I, Jared Stephen Engel, do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all duties of the office of police officer in the City of Evansdale, County of Blackhawk, State of Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law. I do.
Yeah. Chief Teen, can you put it like in the middle so the rest
I didn't.
of the...
Come up.
Yeah.
All of 17 here. Let me jump.
Yeah. That way the audience can see.
Sure. Officer Epley. You raise your right hand. I'll read this aloud, then you answer the affirmative. I, Dalton James Epley, do solemnly swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all duties of the office of police officer in the City of Evansdale, County of Blackhawk, State of Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law. Thank you. Mr. Newman?
That's right.
That's right. We can get that picture.
Get a good filter.
Raise your right hand. I'll read this aloud and then you answer in the affirmative. I, Benjamin Dwayne Newman, do solemnly swear to continue to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of the State of Iowa, and will faithfully and impartially, to the best of my ability, discharge all duties of the office of Police Sergeant in the City of Evansdale, County of Blackhawk, State of Iowa, as now or hereafter required by law.
Just for the record, you win, Ben. Nobody can top that photo, sorry. You guys are going to have to look what you got to do next time, so.
She makes me look good. So.
Thank you for bringing her.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Chief.
I just want to make a comment. I do appreciate all the police officers coming on board and promoting this house. It is a great asset to the community, and we do appreciate your service.
Thank you, Steve.
Agreed. Number 7 is public discussion, non-agenda items. If you would like to, you have something to discuss or something to bring to the council, please step up to the podium. Please state your name and your address. Okay, we'll move on to item 8 if there's no public discussion. Number 8 is council to consider land exchange at approximately 1222 Evans Road. This has been kind of a topic of conversation. There is an area where are you the gentleman that?
Nope, he's right here.
Oh, right here. Oh, please go ahead and stand up. Go ahead and just state your name if you wouldn't mind at the podium, and just tell the council briefly what you're thinking about doing.
Yep, my name is Darren Brees. Interested in purchasing a piece of property. It's roughly at the end of Evans Road in Arbutus, I believe. Looking to purchase a piece of property to build a single-family home, but there is some easement issues with access to this property. So, proposing land exchange. There's a really weird piece of land where the part of the lake is owned, but in exchange for access or an easement to this piece of property.
There's a triangular piece that would help enlarge it enough for the area where he was going to enter the property, where he would put a driveway, and he would consider in exchange for part of the ownership of his land is the eastern part of that lake. So he'd be willing to do an exchange. When I'm bringing it to council tonight, is consideration of that. So we would have the, a more formal thing through our attorneys to proceed in that direction.
Is that John Nichols' estate?
It is, yep.
I didn't know that. Of course, that's a big mess, as far as I know.
Yeah, it's been a complicated piece of property to try to navigate all of the odds and ends. I thought it's pretty weird that he owns such a big part of the lake. I'm not real familiar with the history of it. Maybe the lake has grown.
The lake isn't very deep there. If they drop the lake, all them weeds come up over the top. So the lake isn't really, that end of the lake really isn't good for,
Sure.
keep it up high and then it looks okay. But
Sure.
no, because I had my nephew's is what it is, and they called and wanted to donate all the property to the city for a park. Now, I don't know what's going on down there, but I talked to Betty here, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she said she'd never ever talked to you.
No, she didn't talk to me.
You know, that's why I told you that day. She says that no, she told me before she did.
Oh.
And I don't have her number, so I haven't been able to call her back and ask her what the hell's going on.
Oh, okay.
Because so I don't know what the deal is. It's because my brother, of course, they had a valuation on it, and you get the valuation from the county, ain't near what valuation he put on it. So it's how much fill you got to put in there.
Well, this isn't that discussion.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
his
mean,
his personal thing. What our discussion is, would council consider exchanging that piece of land for the lake? You know, so then the whole lake would be city owned, and you know, we would in exchange just give him this triangle that he would like to have
Yep, as an entrance easement.
as part of the entrance.
To
It's a
build,
pretty small piece of land.
Yeah, it is.
to build new property on.
Right, yep.
And that was in your packet specifically. I pointed it out where that, you know, with an arrow where that piece was, and then the arrow that where the lake, you know. And then the lake would be the city's, and we would maintain it like we are now. So,
It's a large enough lot to build a home on and everything, I don't,
oh yeah,
Yeah, it's actually
quite
2
large.
acres of,
Yeah.
2 acres of property.
oh, okay.
This is right next to the
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
okay.
The main thing is
Yeah, Chris, did you
filling, I
need the
mean, you
big
can't build a house in there.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, there's some fill would have to be brought in.
Well, like 300 loads,
Not quite that much, but
it is close.
It's just dirt. It's cheap, right? Those words don't work anymore, do they? Nothing's cheap.
But at this point, I don't know what's going on, because I haven't been able to get hold of her, and I haven't, of course, the kids are out of town, so.
Well, it sounds like
I guess-
something's going on.
Yeah, I
But-
know
Yeah.
some things of what's happened, she said that she needed the money to pay this or this off, and
Yeah.
let that come first before there's any estate deals, which I don't know if that's true or not,
Well, that's something he's going to work out separately because he's the one interested
yeah,
in
yeah, I can take that
purchasing
to it.
from
Wait
them.
for Ron turn his mic on. The furnace just came on. We can't hear him.
Can you bring your mic closer up to you, please?
Thank you.
I gotcha.
10-4.
I mean, my 20 cents, there we go, 1/5, is that if we're taking, especially an even swap to make what is potentially kind of an unbuildable property because it doesn't have the easement, making it into a buildable property for what was going to just sit kind of in the weed and woodlands anyways, I'm not immediately seeing any drawbacks. We already maintain the lake. The wooded area sits empty. That would bring a taxable piece of property into our
That's just it. I mean,
That's
coffers,
right.
the tax
so,
base.
and provide a home for
Intent is
somebody.
to Build a
Yes.
house.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't see a problem with it.
No, I got nothing against building a house, don't get me wrong, I'd rather have a house down there than.
We'll build 3 or 4 of them.
I can't see any way of, where it would benefit the city to get the property, all I can see is a cost wise, but,
What would the cost be? Do you know what a rough estimate would be for the
I can
lawyers
look
off the
into it.
papers?
That's why it's on the agenda
Yeah.
to move forward with it.
Oh.
So we would, have all that information to you hopefully by the next meeting.
Okay.
So can I get a motion, please?
I'll make that motion to move forward.
I'll second
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
it. Sorry, I first say aye.
Okay. Thank you, Council.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 9, discussion action nuisance abatement. We talked about this at the last meeting, Code of Ordinance, Chapter 1551. You had asked that our building inspector, code enforcer would come to the meeting and talk to you, and here he is. Steve, some tomorrow.
Here's some pictures of just a few nuisance properties that we're dealing with around town. I believe there's 3 properties there, and then there's a.
Would you mind standing up to
Oh,
the
sorry.
podium, please?
Steve's sure house on there.
So there's, I believe there's 3 properties there. 303 Minor is on there. 217 Grand Boulevard is in that packet, and 715 Jones is in that packet. Also 4054 Lafayette Road. In that particular property, there's pictures of what it looked like before we met with the homeowners and issued a letter about the abatement. And then there's some pictures of after the cleanup they did. There's still a little bit of cleanup that needs to be over there, but they did a pretty good job and got rid of everything that was there. that's just a sample of what I have. Since I've taken over, I probably have 15 to 20 properties, and that's with me not even looking. That's with me just getting complaints from citizens. I do a lot of my inspections at nighttime because sometimes homeowners aren't home. So I'll come in the city at like 4 o'clock and I'll make appointments to go look at furnaces and stuff that I can't get in during the day. And just the fact that I'm driving around with a city truck, I get stopped all the time. And people are like, hey, are you the code enforcement? I'm like, yeah. Could you take a look at this property? Can you look at my neighbor's house? So what I do is I go through, I take pictures of everything that I see. We started off with door knockers, and I had really good results on some of the door knockers on the smaller problems, like grass overgrowth, maybe a little bit of garbage. I had pretty good results with that. And then we started getting into these bigger projects where, if you look at some of those pictures, I mean, it's horrible. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff everywhere. There's abandoned vehicles, abandoned trailers, tents, inside furniture being put outside. Just really bad. So, of course, my door knockers don't work for those kind of individuals. They're not really concerned about a door knocker. So those are the individuals that we need to get a little more advanced on and start sending letters. We've done at least 2 abatements, I believe, since we've done this. We had some really bad issues in town. We took pictures, we sent out tickets, went to court, we won our case, and we actually abated it. So we have at least 2 properties I know of that we abated.
Yeah. And we have
a big change.
Yeah, we have 2 more that, and it's just been, our Public Works Department kind of finishing up some summer jobs. So we haven't wanted to pull them off those jobs, but we have a kind of like a shed that was built at just beyond 106 Roosevelt Court. A couple campers out there too. It can't be there for one, because you can't have a shed without a house, and it's really not a shed. It's kind of it's a big nuisance. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And then we're still going to be dealing with Mary Ayton. She's gotten some of the stuff is out of there, but we still have more to go and get. So that's something when the ground freezes over, which is probably getting pretty close now, that we'll deal with some of those things. But Steve and I have discussed this in our office, and it's like, it would be, we were cleaning up some properties, and there was people that were coming into compliance. Now we're into our 2nd year where we haven't been enforcing this, and you can see what's happening. Mm-hmm. You give an inch, and they're going to take a mile. And it's like, it's your place. We're trying to grow our city. We're trying to have a better city here. We want people to come in and build houses here. We want people to come in and bring their businesses here for Eagles Landing. So this is all part of it.
I'd go
That
one.
303 minor, if you've seen that one, that's been a problem for this town for a long time, from what I understand. It just really needs to be addressed. And my understanding is that gentleman that owns that property actually owns another property in another town, and he's dealing with the same thing at that town. So,
Okay, so like right now, no one's addressed anything on 303 minor?
I have.
And so what?
He's moved, since then he's gotten rid of one van, got some stuff moved, but not enough. There's no way that gentleman can do everything that needs to be done there.
So then what do you propose that happens?
I think we're gonna have to go ahead and send out the letter stating from the attorney what needs to be done, give him a timeline to get it done, and when he doesn't get it done, we're gonna have to take it to court. We're gonna have to get permission from the court to abate it, and the city's gonna have to go in there and abate it. We're gonna have to pull everything out. We're gonna have to clean everything up, and it's gonna have to be addressed against his taxes.
But we can do that now.
Not until we get the court.
It's a process.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, but like, why are we talking about this on the agenda? I mean, is it because you want to enforce this more, or do you want to make new rules, or?
No,
Sorry, I'm
we
trying to
just,
figure out.
back in 2020,
Uh-huh.
it was stopped. the mayor at the time said, we're no longer enforcing this until council makes a decision. And it was really basically just because of parking of a camper. I think that's why it was just kind of thrown out. So, I don't have that. Those are things that council has to consider. Are we gonna allow one camper if it's in the backyard, it's kept up, you know, can it be on the grass as long as they take care of it? You know, that was probably the big issue where I think it was just stopped. We stopped enforcing our nuisance throughout the whole city
So
in
we're just
2020.
discussing, we're not, I mean, there's no action to take place then?
No, there's nothing that needs
Okay.
to make change unless
Just making
you.
sure I need,
No,
I just wanna
uh-uh.
make sure I understand what we are set out to do.
The way I, excuse me, the way I took this, Christy, was that it's put back in front of us because at least the saying I've heard several times, at least I've been told, if we have the nuisances, if we have these ordinances, we need to be enforcing them. If not, we need to get rid of them. So I think that's what we're discussing right
Yep.
now, is that is everything on here something we want to continue to enforce? And if not, let's discuss it and figure out, do we need to change it or get rid of it? And yes, there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
But that's just the start. And I know, if I remember correctly from the last council meeting, we had asked that the code enforcement officers come
Yeah.
because we wanted to know what was going on.
Oh, okay.
Is it actively being enforced? Is it
Okay.
even being effective? What do we kind of have going on? And that's where I believe Councilman Siebel, even brought up, can we get that even kind of like in a monthly packet of, here's what we did, door knocker left, here's my status, and just so that we can also see that we are seeing progress on these things if we're going to keep the ordinances and enforce them.
Okay.
Sorry, that was a lot.
No,
That was great. I mean, a couple years ago when
Yeah,
we started
that's-
this, people
yep.
didn't, we had a lot of resistance from people when we tried to redo this a couple years ago. And she's right, the mayor's right. It was total directive to stop it. And then you gotta decide, like Mayor Klobisky says, is how far are we gonna push everything? Are we gonna have, the rules are the rules, it don't matter if your name is me or whoever, this is what we're gonna go by, not who you are. And that's where it went a while back. It's who you were was left alone, who you weren't, it's who got picked on. And I totally applaud Steve and the mayor and everybody going forward this and getting this going, because this has been going on for years. I've been on the council with no movement. It needs to happen. I mean, it just needs to happen.
Or get rid of it.
Yeah, or get rid of it, change it.
Nope.
Just like any other law, I mean,
Nope.
you have it for a reason. So we have an ordinance for a reason.
What are the most common things you're seeing throughout the city?
A lot of it is damaged houses, damaged vehicles, debris scattered all over properties, interior furniture put outside. I mean, a lot of it's shown in those pictures. A lot of abandoned vehicles, broken down vehicles. We have a lot of residents that run maybe some type of repair shop or something out of their garages. So they'll have broken down cars scattered all over the yard. Maybe there's a gentleman doing like small engine repairs, so he's got broken down tractors and lawnmowers scattered all over the place. We have some people who maybe they were doing something and then the rubbish from that doing, like there's one place on there you'll see a whole bunch of pallets. I'm not really sure what that gentleman was doing, but he's got like a ton of pallets. So maybe he was getting stuff, taking it apart. But as for our code, the way the code's written, none of that can be outside. None of it's allowed to be outside. Everything needs to be in an enclosed garage, shed, something. You can't have anything stored outside. Vehicles need to be able to be operable. They need to be able to move. They need to be able to drive. They need to be licensed. Some stuff we were running with the attorney is, if I know it might be confusing one of my other cities, but if they can prove it runs, we can't do nothing about it. And I believe we're dealing with that too. So
Yeah.
if I go out there and I tell the guy, hey, I see your vehicle here, your hood's up, you got a flat tire, it hasn't been plated in a year, what are you doing with it? Oh, it runs just fine. Well, if they start it and they can move it, I can't cite them. So some of that stuff, we need to change our code so we don't have broken down vehicles sitting in people's properties. Even though it runs, but it's got two flat tires or a busted windshield or busted out lights, it's still an eyesore to the city. And I mean, if people drive around the city, you see them. I mean, they're everywhere. So that's a problem that we're having. And then a lot of my complaints I get from citizens when I go and I investigate, so what I usually do is I get a complaint, I go online, I find out who the actual owner is of the property, so I can deal with the actual owner. We have a lot of problem with rentals. And I know that's something we're gonna talk about later too, so I won't get into that too much, but there are a lot of problems with rentals. So that's something that, in the next phase, we need to talk about as well, but I guess what I'm saying is, I believe when I took the job and I was offered the job is that the city wanted this stuff to get cleaned up. They don't want to have stuff laying around. They don't want to deal with all the trash laying around. And with me not living in the city, I don't know who everybody is. So I don't have any favorites. When I do all my enforcement, I do it with blinders. I don't know who anybody is. I don't know whose house it is. I'll have the mayor tell me all the time. I'll come in with an address and she'll be like, well, that's the person's house. I don't know who that person is. So, and that's how it is with my other cities. I don't live in the cities anymore. So I'm just there doing the code enforcement, doing the inspections and stuff. As I don't know who you are, I'm here to do my job. So it doesn't matter to me whatever it was in the past, whatever the situation was in the past, that doesn't concern me. So I'm just going to do the job that I'm asked to do. And I guess I'm just looking for council support so that when I do go out and do the job, that I know the council has my back.
Mayor, did we get another attorney that's pursuing this
Yes.
in a proactive
Yep.
way?
Yep.
Because before we got told we never had bite in
Yeah,
court. Okay.
no, yeah.
I commend Steve 100%. I said this for many years. We need to clean it up. And whatever it takes, like you told me when you first come on board, you start cleaning places up, people know we mean business. We're not picking on them, but there's ordinances and stuff to go by, and we need to go by it.
That includes everybody.
Everybody, it don't matter who you are, it needs to be consistent and uniform, every house on every block.
I know I've come back a couple times after investigating something, and then I go and talk to mayor about, what the situation is, and then next thing you know, it's this particular person. Well, I don't know who that particular person is, so I go out and I deal with it, and then I find out who it is, and I'll tell them, hey, you're gonna get a phone call, because obviously I just made somebody upset that at one time might have been somebody in the city. I don't know who they are. So she's gotten a few phone calls about me, and I'm just doing my job. I'm not picking on people. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just doing my job. I don't know who that person is. I don't know if that person, what he held in the city. I have no idea. I'm just doing the job. So, and like I said, a couple times she's had to tell people, well, that's what he's hired for. So I'm asking, I guess I'm repeating myself, I'm just asking for the council support. So that way when I do go out and do something, that someone were to come back to the council member and say, hey, your guy's being too rough or too hard. I'm not. I'm just following what the council allows me to follow.
I think you're on the right path, Steve. I think we need to stay focused, move forward, deal with it, and stay consistent, deal with everything that comes along, and whatever it is what it is. But in the end result, the big picture of the future, will be a lot better in the streets in the town of Evansville.
I think that the most important thing here is to, the ordinances are going to be very varied, wide, very broad. Where do you stop?
Well, the one thing nice about the ordinance, it does address particular things. And
Yes.
some of the ordinance, if you read them, they actually roll a bunch of stuff into it. So
Yeah.
like my one ordinance, if I'm looking for one particular thing, my ordinance will roll a whole bunch of stuff into it. So I can use that number in that ordinance for
Yeah.
one particular thing. I don't
Right.
have to have separate lines for everything.
Right.
So if you read through the ordinance, they cover quite a bit.
Yes.
So we don't need to add a bunch of more stuff. It's pretty much covered in what we have. We just need to continue to enforce it and follow through with it. I know the new attorney has gone through it, and I know he's
Yeah.
made some changes on my letters that I'm going to start using. So those letters are going to have more bite, so that way when the mayor does go to court, there's no chance of us losing anything. And I think every case we've gone through, we've won
Yep.
the cases we've gone to court for.
Yep.
So, I believe we're doing everything right. I guess as long as we continue to do everything right, and as long as, like I said, council, mayor, citizens all stand behind what we're doing, I think it's going to be a lot easier. You're going to have some people that are going to be mad. The council member, you're going to get phone calls. You're going to. They're going to reach out to you trying to see if you can do something. As long as the council members and the mayor continue to say, we want the city cleaned up.
I just want to be consistent, because if I have to defend it, if I have to take those phone calls, if you have to take the beratement up front as the mayor and city clerk, just want to be consistent, so that the favoritism, the good old boys club, as it was referred back to, we're treating everybody the same and equal, and that's what it needs to be.
We've had some really upset citizens. I mean, I've got some recordings that I sent to her, and I've had people who approach me in ways they shouldn't approach me. So I deal with other cities, we were able to get a body cam, so I'm going to start using that when I do more of my code enforcement, because we've had some citizens that were just not very nice, to be honest with you. And it doesn't bother me if they're not nice, because I'm not here to make friends. I don't know if that's bad to say or not, I'm sorry. But I just do a job. Same thing I do with my companies. I'm just here to make a living. So that's kind of what I'm doing with the cities too. Just something I'm trying to move forward on.
In all fairness to you, you are doing what formally we, as now sitting on the council, have asked by having these ordinances. And certainly understand you are the punching bag, because you're right there. You're accessible when it's happening. But that's what this forum is for. That's what a public discussion is for. That's for if they need to contest their claim, they put it on the agenda and let them come up and plead their case. So I want that being recorded, so that hopefully as people watch these and things, spread the word. That's what we're here for. I mean, that's what these meetings are for.
Well, I wanted to commend Steve, because in the 6 months or better he's been on staff, there's been more gotten done than there was in the last 5 years.
And he's part-time.
And he's part-time on top of it, so that's awesome. I do appreciate everything you've done so far, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, I'll take a motion to move forward, and to open it up to allow him to do his job
So
on our current
Second.
code.
To maintain current ordinances and enforce there within.
Yeah.
I'll motion.
Second.
All
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, number 10, since you're still up here, discussion action, rental housing. I know that we have heard a lot about this probably in the last year than we have in several years, because it was just never brought to our attention. And I know Ms. Laura Benson has spent months and hours of her time, her own personal time, coming up. I'm telling you, the booklet's probably about that thick with all the rental properties that we have in the city. It's become quite, it's really exploded. Some of our older residents have either moved on or passed on, and some of their houses, because maybe they weren't kept up or what have you, we got a different kind of landlord coming into our city. So I know that I'll just let you take it away. I know that you've had a lot of conversations with Ms. Benson regarding that and have addressed some of the properties already.
So I guess what I want to start with, so everybody knows, I am a landlord. I do own properties. I do manage properties. The majority of my properties are in the Waterloo area, the Cedar Falls area. I'm sure there's other landlords here that deal with it too. And Waterloo and Cedar Falls have some really strict codes when it comes to residential, for rentals. So they actually have rental inspections where they actually go out and make sure that the rental houses are safe. They're not looking for, I don't know how to say it, but they're not
cosmetics.
Yeah. Well, some stuff they are, but so what's been happening is a lot of the rental units in the bigger cities around us, what they're doing is a lot of the landlords, and it's more of your outer state or your giant landlords, what they're doing is dealing with the problems in the cities. When they're having so many problems there, they're taking advantage of smaller cities around them that don't have any rental codes or anything in effect. So they're actually going into these smaller cities and they're buying properties that are either at Blackhawk County Sheriff's auctions, or they're buying properties like you said earlier about, we have had a citizen that lived in the house their entire life. So you go into a house and it hasn't been remodeled in 40 years. Well, they're coming around and they're buying these properties, $10, $20, $30, $40,000, going in there doing a quick paint when there's major issues that are wrong with the property, and they're just going in doing a quick paint, and then they're turning around and renting them from anywhere from $700 to $1,000 a piece. Because, in all honesty, Evansdale is kind of a sought-after area. A lot of people want to get out of Waterloo because of the problems they have, and they like the small community of Waterloo. So you have a lot of renters that are trying to come from Waterloo, trying to come to Evansdale, and the landlords know it. They know it. So they're coming to smaller towns. It's not just Evansdale, it's happening everywhere. We have it in Raymond too.
Yeah.
They're coming to these smaller towns and they're buying these houses. But they're not spending the money that it takes to get the house up to at least safety requirements. So I guess what I'm asking is I'm asking for the council to consider the possibility of maybe Evansdale coming up with some kind of rental inspection program. Something just to make sure that if we do have a rental house that comes in, we can do some type of inspection. Waterloo does it yearly. They'll come out, I think it's like every 2 years. I think, do you know, Ron?
No, I don't know. Waterloo has never ever inspected one of my houses. That's what I was gonna.
You're lucky.
I've got 16, 17 houses in Waterloo, and they charge me the money, but they have never ever come out and inspected them.
Yeah, I get charged the money too. And usually what happens is, if they're driving around town or something and they see something, like they're starting to enforce chipping paint now. They're starting to enforce garages that are falling down. So they're getting a little more involved in it. I agree with you. I have only been inspected. The only time I've ever had an inspection is if I had a tenant that wasn't happy with us and they call out to Barry Stratton. And then Barry Stratton comes out and does the inspection and can't find anything wrong besides what the tenant that's called.
And they usually owe you $2,000 or $3,000, $4,000. So
unfortunately. But so a lot of the calls I get when I go out and do an inspection, like one particular property, I went out and looked at it. The grass was 2-3 feet high. They had just bought in that property. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just switched tenants. I think they bought it. So I go out in the back, and they have a couple sheds out in the back, and they have a wire, just a regular interior wire, like a 14-2 wire, coming from the main garage, coming through a hole that's drilled, going out to this shed, and then continues down to this shed. So not only do you have, and the sheds are falling apart. So not only do you have the problem with the sheds falling apart, but then you have an electrical problem that could cause a fire. So when I reach out to that particular landlord, which is one of the more major landlords in the area, and they're like, well, what are we going to do anything with it? It's fine. Someone lived there for the last year and a half and never had a problem.
But wouldn't that fall under our ordinances? Why do we need a rental thing?
But I would never have no reason to go there.
Yeah,
so if the grass, the only reason I stopped at that house is because the grass was tall. And so when I was walking around back to take my pictures of all the tall grass, that's when I saw the dilapidated sheds and I saw the wiring and I saw the problems. So I photographed the problems and then reached out to the owner of the property and asked them to repair the property. If we don't have any type of program, and let's say you got a landlord who maybe they keep the front of the house looking nice, but there's nothing being done in the back, I would never have a reason to go look. So, I don't know.
Our code doesn't allow us to do it now.
No.
If we get a complaint, and we used to have Blackhawk Health Department that would come in, and they could call them, and they would come and do the inspection. They no longer support the city of Evansdale.
Yeah, but I don't see why we need to implement another ordinance when we have 3 pages of ordinances that we can enforce with any house instead of a rental
But
house.
we don't have any that allows us to go.
Program. It's more of something that just addresses the rentals in
yeah,
the town.
but then you're going to charge the landlords to have inspections done.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
It's for us to decide.
We don't have to do what Waterloo does. I mean, there's no one saying we have to do that.
No, like I said, Waterloo has never, to my knowledge, inspected any of my properties.
So I'm not asking for the city to put a fee on it. I'm just asking for the city, if we have a list of rental properties, if we can set up some type of, just maybe allow me the access to go look into these rental properties. Like, I'm allowed to, if I get a complaint, I'm allowed to go anywhere on the thing and deal with it. If I don't get a complaint, and a lot of your tenants aren't going to complain. I mean, you probably do the same thing I do. They could be falling down around them and they don't care because you're the last person they want in their house.
Usually they're the ones that cause it to fall down. And
yeah, right.
It
goes both ways.
Yeah, well, we do have a lot of landlords. I'm sure you know too, Ron, there's some landlords out there that don't do nothing. Yeah, and that's kind of the ones, I'm not mentioning any names, but that's kind of the ones that we have coming into this town. And they're not doing anything. They're not even doing necessary.
What I'm getting at, this $25 charge is for what?
Yeah, I'm not asking Evansdale to charge anything. I guess I'm just asking Evansdale if they're interested in looking into some kind of program. I don't think we need to charge anything.
I think it should be covered under our present, rules
We
and
need to
regulations.
rewrite it somehow where we actually have a line that says rental properties. Because as of right now in our current code, I have nothing that allows me to go investigate a rental property. Like if I have a known rental property, I have nothing that says I
Well, I'm
can.
confused, because if there's a problem on a house, and it don't matter if it's a owner or a rental, you still have to, I mean, if there's a problem, you're gonna go on it, right?
We
You're gonna
cannot.
look.
We absolutely cannot.
Why
No.
can't you? Why wouldn't you be?
We
able
don't
to-
There has
have
to be
any
some
code that
kind of
allows us to
complaint
do
that's
so.
allowed. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't just drive around looking for
Can't
stuff.
initiate it.
Yeah, someone's got to start it. I got to get some kind of, whether a complaint from a resident, a complaint from a council member.
Well,
someone's
even
gotta
then,
complain.
unless I was always told that we can't go in there.
I can't go inside. I can go
Right.
outside.
Right.
So with the rental program, what it'll allow me to do, if I get a complaint, it would allow me to go into the property
Right.
to investigate.
Right.
And
As a tenant or as a landlord, you can't go into the property without getting permission from the occupant or the tenant anyway.
You gotta do a 24-hour
unless you
notice.
give them a 24-hour
Yeah.
notice. Yeah.
You
And then
also have to leave a note
yeah.
24
So I
hours,
mean,
yeah.
I don't.
and the reason why you went in.
Yeah.
when I brought this up, my goal was to absolutely not come in as hard as any other community. Is just to get a start. We just needed something.
Well, I
It
mean,
was-
this.
This is pretty extensive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Waterloo's
There's
is.
like an inspection and there's a
Mhm.
drug agreement and there's
Yep.
and I don't know.
And I'm also not coming in to try to be a burden by any means to either the renter or the landlord. But what I am trying to do is keep things in our city looking nice, which also then helps property value, which then helps tax base, which then helps our budget. So it kind of comes all around.
Full circle.
But then too, I can say with other roles that I have been in properties, I have been in houses, and I have been in areas that I know are rentals that don't have the basics of anything.
But
so-
it can be the same for owner occupied. I mean,
Correct.
there's no difference.
The
That's
rental
the
piece it
problem.
is, and that's the problem, is we have no ability to do anything to a rental-based property differently than from what basic fire code would be. And until you pull a permit to do something, they're not able to go in to check anything.
A lot of these people aren't pulling permits. A lot of the work
Yeah.
that I'm catching on the rentals, there are no permits pulled.
Yeah.
I'll drive by and I'll see like a set of stairs sitting inside of a house that wasn't there before. So that gives me a reason to look. And then the stairs are all done wrong, and I reach out to that the owner, the rental owner. And he's like, "Well, all I did was just add some wood." I said, "Well, you still touched it. And as soon as you touched it, now you got to bring up the current code." So they know they don't want to do the extra work, so they're not going the extra route. They're not doing permits. They're not doing any inspections.
And this
God knows what kind of work goes on behind closed doors.
And this ties back into maybe it was a month ago where we updated a little bit on who we could serve any of the penalties, the notices, the abatements, and pass that funding to. Is we put it in there, say, the renter now
Yep.
can be held responsible for some of it. Again, how we enforce it is still up, but at least it's available. Same thing here. I definitely don't want to necessarily say that it's just up. We want to make it tough for landlords in our city, because rental properties are still properties. But we absolutely want to make sure that they're being held to the same standards and that our code enforcement is able to hold them to the same standards. And right now there's a gap, and that's the problem.
I guess my question on the whole thing, listening, is he's got a pretty full plate now at what he's doing. And if you're going to add a rental agreement in there, I'd like to know how many of these do we have in the community, and just an idea of your time you spend, how much time is he going to spend doing this? Are we overtaxing him on his workload, for one thing?
And we've already done that.
I'd like to see how many we have in this community so I can see what's the list, who all it is, what it is, and drive around myself and look a little bit and decide, is it really pertinent to pursue? Because I think we're throwing a lot more on him He'd be the one to be
And
doing it.
you know, let me just clarify this. We're not looking to do a full-scale rental ordinance like the city of Waterloo did. Well, we just want to start. What is on the agenda for tonight, 1, to discuss it. 2, we have issues. And it's becoming more so. And it's not like three of you out of 5 own rental property in our city.
Who's the third one?
We're not. Jeff Bergman.
Oh,
He owns it, Marlowe. Well, three of the 5 are landlords here,
Landlords.
sitting at the table. So we're not picking on you. What we're looking to do is do something.
I don't think of it as picking on me. I think of it as how is that going to help it? Because like my properties, I have no concerns, none. I mean, you know how I.
Right.
You know.
No, I don't either.
So I don't have any concern about that. But it's not that you're going to go after the people that are not taking care of the properties. I get that. But how are you going to decipher that? And then next thing I know, I'm having to schedule people to come into houses and come into these houses and look at everything. And we have people going into houses looking for stuff, you know. And I don't understand why we're doing that when we can enforce that. Well, I thought we could enforce that with the ordinances. So
We don't.
if we need to maybe add an ordinance to this so that it can involve that, I'm open to that. I'm just not up to enforcing more ordinances.
Well,
we
it's
can't even enforce the ones we got.
Yep. Well, and Christy, to Steve's point, he wants to know the list of all the rental properties.
Yeah.
To see what, we can't produce that because we have no way of proving that.
we have the book.
We have
We do.
have those.
Correct, but is that
No, I was
100%?
gonna-
Do we know 100% of every
It's never going to
thing?
be 100% because we got people
But-
from other countries buying on foreclosure sales with Zillow.
Correct, but that's where I want to start. We have to start somewhere. So I'm not saying coming in and just dropping the hammer, but can we even just start with a way to know what rental properties we have in our city and know if it changes hands? I have an example from the summer that the fire department had to go enforce a burning complaint, and we had to serve a citation. We went back to the property owner who was registered to that address who doesn't live there. So now we don't even know where this person is
Right.
to even
Yeah.
check because they turned off their water, garbage, and sewer,
Yep.
and they were burning trash in the yard. Legit, straight up trash because we were done picking up their garbage. We couldn't even find the property owner.
Yeah,
So it's just even to start somewhere. That's all I want to get is we just got to start somewhere
Yeah.
so that we can figure out where the problem areas are and we
You go-
can help to enforce it.
Excuse me, you go to a tenant and you call the utility companies, the water, the sewer, and the electric, and the garbage, and they've got different names in every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
you're still
And
still
then
gonna
they
have
send
a
me the
problem.
bill.
Exactly, and that's I want to clearly state that I am not trying to make it hard on landlords. I'm not trying hard to make it on renters. But we have problematic properties that we are able to enforce to a certain point.
We go after the deed holders.
But-
We go after.
Yeah, that's
We can't that our hands are further tied when it comes to the rentals. And that's where our ordinances do fall short. That's why all other communities except for the small ones which are having the problems, have some sort of stated rental agreement, whether it's a full-on program, enforcement, inspection, charging you for it, or it's just something subtle that states, hey, you need to register your property. We just need to know if you do move or if you sell it. We need to make sure so that we can hold the right people accountable too.
I call it a money grab because they do nothing about it.
Oh, absolutely. Real estate, there's a ton of money in. And if you don't sink any money into it, it's 100% profit.
As far as the city, like water
fees.
charges $25.
Oh, sure.
I just had to send them a check. And to this day, like I said, how long has that been enforced? 10 years?
It's been a while, I know.
And they've never inspected one of my properties, as far as I know, in
Yeah.
the whole 10 years.
And that's what I said. I definitely wasn't trying to come out to say, hey, I feel that can be definitely a burden. We're putting more of a burden on you when all we're trying to do is just make sure you keep your stuff cleaned up. You provide a safe
But Steve's not
residence.
suggesting a fee system. He's just wanting to get in there and inspect it. That's
Correct.
really what he's getting
We just
at.
want to know
He wants
where the rental
availability.
properties are and whether or not their lease is safe.
Right, and it's on the agenda tonight. Do we want to pursue this? Do what have that conversation with the attorney? What can we add in our current code that would allow us to go into a rental property? Because right now we cannot, you know, if we receive a complaint, or if we drive by and, you know, we see that the windows are out of it.
Steve, are there some, so you say you work with other communities. Are there some code ordinances that you could present to us that we could review that
I'm
might be
having the
applicable?
same problem with the other cities. So I work for smaller cities, so I'm having the same problem with the other cities. And obviously, Evansdale is my biggest city I work with, so I'm kind of following suit with what like Evansdale does with Waterloo. I'm waiting for Evansdale to make a decision on how they want to move forward, because you're my largest little city.
Sure.
So my other little cities are going to be looking towards what
So
this
they're
council
looking for us
decides.
to set
They're
the
looking
example.
for this council to set an example, so that
Okay.
I hate to say it, but
I mean,
we can copycat off of this
Yeah.
council.
Somewhere down the line, someone's written this ordinance. We just gotta
They're
find it.
Waterloos, but you don't want Waterloos.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
We need to
Waterloo
take Waterloo
aside.
and just slash it down to make it so it's
And-
suitable for a small city.
Just like Christy, you had pulled from like Waukee and Ankeny, some of what are the absolutely just bustling, booming little cities that are now big cities, or little towns that are now big cities. Where did they start?
Yeah.
They had to have it.
Someone's built this wheel.
Yeah.
We just gotta find it.
So how do we do it just to where we can help grow that standard direction? Somebody's had the
You
idea.
can get anything, information you want of who owns the property from the county.
And I don't feel like the inspections are gonna, I mean,
That
you'll
doesn't
get a
have to be
list.
City or
but-
anybody, I can call
And
the
we're not
county
going
and
in
get
that
the-
direction
who
at
owns
all.
any
I don't
piece of
believe, I don't
property.
see us going in that direction right now. I think we just need to get a handle. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. I have lived in my home for 15 years. I have a rental property next door to me. Until a couple years ago, it was a rental property company that owned it. The gal lived in Florida. So we had a management company. It is bringing down my property on a daily basis. They haven't painted the what do you call it? The seal. What do you call it? Soffits. The soffits. You know, the new company that has come in, they had decks on the back of those houses that were literally, if someone stepped on them, they would fall right down to the earth. I'm just saying, now this company has come in, they've, you know, replaced the roof that was, I don't know, I don't even know how the water wasn't coming inside the house like a sieve. But it's decreasing the value of my property. So this is what we're talking about. You know, can we put something in place that those things are addressed? That your soffits are painted, that your, you know, eaves troughs are, I don't know, that your roofs are...
I don't think that you should do that, because if you're going to implement that to the tenants, or to the landlords or the rental houses, you need to implement that to the people that live in Evansdale as well.
Right, well, we do have that.
So, like, the house that...
We do have
next
that
to you
in
on the
our
other
code
side,
now.
Well, then, you know, like, then... I
Yeah,
don't
if they're
get-
sitting there with just that
If the soffit needs to be...
Tyvek on it or whatever, they need to finish siding it.
Yeah.
We got a house on Doyle that's had Tyvek. I think you know which one I'm talking about on Doyle. It's had Tyvek on it for the last at least 10 years.
I mean, I get what you're saying. There's some properties in here that are depleted and they need to be, improved on. But that's rentals and other, owners, people who actually live in the homes too. It doesn't, I just don't feel that making an ordinance for rentals are what we need to do, because I feel like if we're going to imply that to them, then we're going to imply it to everyone. We can't just do rentals, we got to do everyone. So that means if my house I own my house and I didn't paint my soffit and it's, falling apart, then you need to come and cite me for
Well,
that.
we have that code now. Now that we have made a decision to actually honor our code tonight, we have that in our code. That was added back in 2018.
Well,
if
that
the
was an example. That was just, I'm just saying.
okay, but we do have that in our code. So we've made that decision tonight to move forward with that code. If your roof is half off, or you have tar paper on there, or blue sheeting with bricks, which we have, ask Steve.
Yeah,
You
I
have
know
to finish you have to
know.
finish roofing it.
Yeah, I get that, but I don't think that you need to do it for rentals, and I mean, you should apply for everything. So if you want to look at the ordinance and add it for the rentals, that's fine, but I don't think we need to be doing another one is what I don't think.
Pretty soon, if you don't like the color of your neighbor's house, it's cutting the value of your house, you're gonna make them
Yeah.
paint it.
And I don't, I
That's,
I don't feel like
That's
we're asking
unrealistic.
council to start a whole new ordinance for rentals. I guess we're asking, what does council want to do? We have a lot of rental properties in town with a lot of problems when they're known rental properties. And how does council want to move forward on addressing these issues?
I
guess
agree
we're
with you
asking.
there as far as
Yeah.
what's up, but if you're gonna put a fee on it like Waterloo
We're not
does,
asking for a fee.
it's, then.
Maybe a
I'm totally against
registration,
it.
no fee, just so we have a registration in town. If
Well,
you
they
own a
should-
rental
they should-
property in Evansdale,
They
it needs
should
to be
be
registered.
kept up to the same standard as anybody that owns a house.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just a
Please, Ken.
registration fee of, just not a fee, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, just a registration
Requirement.
requirement. If you own a rental property in the town of Evansdale, you need to have it registered as a rental property.
I think though, that information is available to the county,
No, it's not.
No, not all of it, no.
It's absolutely not.
because there's no, what's called it, deduction on them for homeowners.
Well, some people won't, homestead tax that,
Mhm.
but some people, they'll, like, you got a mother and father that passed away and they just give the house to their kids. Well, the kid never changes the name, it just stays in mom and dad's name, and then that kid turns around and just moves people in there as a rental. So there's ways around it that you don't have to
Right.
have stuff done. I mean, we all know this, there's ways you can do it. So I guess.
we actually did find that out about a
We
house
did,
that was on
yeah,
West Gilbert
yeah.
that was,
I
and
was
luckily
trying to tag
Steve
it.
did know the people that were a part of that family, because we couldn't get anywhere with the guy that it was, in
We
his
couldn't
name.
do nothing to him because
No.
he didn't own it.
Yeah.
But he was living in a deceased family member's house.
Yes.
All you gotta do is get the person's name that's living in there and check it against who owns it in the county, and you got it.
We found out who owned it, but they were both deceased.
Yeah.
And then we found out
Somebody
that
has to be paying somebody the rent.
no, it wasn't.
There was actually nobody was.
It's a mess.
Actually, Ron, nobody was living in it,
And that's
it
what
was,
we're trying-
It was a hot mess.
And that's what we're trying to
There
bring
was
up is there
junk
is-
in the backyard. The grass in the backyard was 4 foot tall. I'm not exaggerating. We have pictures.
Somebody was
It's
living in a
it's,
nice house.
You're-
it's the extreme things. We're not
Yeah.
looking to.
And you are
know,
correct, Ron. That is how it should be. We should be able to go out, and that's what the assessors, and that's what the whole thing
Yeah.
works. The problem is no different than even when we state if we make a requirement to come up here and register, we're still going to have people that don't do it. But now we have the ability to go back and say, hey, now you need to do it. We need to know that you're registered up here.
A penalty if they don't
So-
register, maybe.
It's no different than a cat and dog license. We're just
Yeah.
asking for our rental properties to register so that way we know which is a rental and which is privately owned.
If there's no fee to it, then there's probably no objection to it, but if there's a fee to it, then you're picking out a certain group of people and charging them more money because you think they got it from rent.
I don't see why we need to have a fee
No.
for it, and that's something that's all dependent on council. But I guess I'm just asking council for council to decide how they want to move forward. That's, I guess, what I'm asking.
Okay.
Whether we do a registration, whether we do however council wants to do it.
Well, I think we need to look at code that we need to add to our current
Exactly.
nuisance abatement properties. And I'd be happy to reach out to the city attorney and just say, what can we add that would allow us to do this?
To enforce rentals. Yep.
To enforce
Steve wanted a
rentals.
list. If we had registration, we'd have a list for Steve to see every house that's registered in town as a rental.
So with this ordinance, I mean, then Mike, you can, under this thing that we got from Marley, when it talks about purpose and definition, okay, we're not gonna require the license. I mean, we're gonna have to have quite a format in the ordinance for rental to have a description of what it is and why it is and where it goes. I mean, you can't just say we want rentals on this ordinance. I think it's gonna have to take some vocabulary. from
No,
the attorney.
it'll be, yeah.
I think what we need to do
Yeah,
is,
definitely.
I wouldn't
mean,
go with
this-
this tonight, but I think we need to have the attorney look at it.
Yes.
See if something could be brought up to work. If it can't work and we decide we don't want to go with it, then we'll vote at that time, we're not gonna go with it. If it sounds great, then we'll have discussion and we'll go with it. But you, Mike.
So I'm going to speak as a landlord for a moment and not as the chief. This is a challenging topic of discussion. I have several apartments and I want my properties to look nice. And by that same token, I want other landlords to take good care of their property as well. I used to have property in Waterloo, and when Waterloo started implementing a lot of these codes and restrictions and whatnot, I left. I got rid of my property and I left because I really felt like it was Big Brother, keeping tabs on me. And they started billing for inspections, and they never came and inspected anything. It felt like a money grab. I had the same experience as the councilman. I'm on the fence about it. Like I said, I want my property to look nice. I do work hard to keep my property looking nice, but I want the other landlords to do it as well. It feels a lot like the good landlords have to be punished to some degree because of the bad landlords. It's like the Big Brother thing with always keeping tabs on you and your property, and I have a little bit of an issue with that. But I agree that we want our properties to look nice.
Thank you, Mike.
I just, Laura, I just wanted to explain why I did this,
3
why
minutes.
I brought this together. I brought this up last year, and what I had back was Charles Beam saying that we had 60 to 70% rental properties. And it was kind of a standing joke between us that nobody really knew that we had a lot more rental properties than we thought of. So as a personal challenge, only 2,500 homes in the city, I went through them. And at that time, last winter, I came up with roughly 650 properties that I knew for sure were rentals, by who owned them, and how many other properties they owned, and which houses they were claiming homestead credit on. Furthermore, as I started looking through everything, and I was really looking at the numbers and the permits and the values and the taxes, I realized this is how we save our tax base. This is how we raise our tax base without raising our tax levy on everyone else. And I spent a lot of time over at the library. There's a gentleman that owns a lot of rental properties here in town. Roland Armstrong is his name. And I sat down with Roland over there at the library, and I opened up my binder, and he was flipping through it, and he looked at me and he said, if we don't do this, everybody's taxes are going up. Everybody's have to go up because our tax base has been suffering for some time. How long have we heard we can't do this or we can't do that without raising taxes? This is how we do that without raising taxes, is we get everybody that owns a home that's for profit to pay the amount of taxes that the people that are owning their homes and living in them pay. Because that's not what's happening. What's happening is that some of these landlords are literally paying $400 a year for property taxes. They are not contributing to our tax base, and like Deanne said, in the meantime, they're deprecating our values. So those of us that are doing everything to our houses to raise our homeowner value so that we can use that sweat equity for our financial gain are unable to because the houses around us are deprecating our value. And this is how we fix that. And it doesn't have anything to do with being a landlord or being a renter. I'm looking at it as the person in the neighborhood. I have been a renter. I had 5 rental properties prior to my divorce. I have been a renter when I was in college, and as I was going through my divorce, I wanted to be a renter because I didn't want to have to deal with a leaky roof or a furnace going out in the middle of the night with 6 kids. These are the things that the community expects you to do for the community. This is for the people. This isn't about you or you or you or your budgets or your tax value. It's about all of us having the resources we need.
Thank you, Laura. So at this point, I'm just going to reach out to the city attorney. I'm going to ask him, maybe we can even compare some other cities to what they've done, or maybe some language that they've added, maybe around the Des Moines area or Cedar Rapids area, Iowa City area, or what have you, that, you know, they're out there, smaller cities that have move forward doing something like that. And then I'll bring it back to you guys, so you guys can look at it, so you can get some ideas what you'd like to do going forward. I do believe, and I'm just going to reiterate this, I do believe that we have some issues. I do believe that rental properties in our city are not being maintained. I'm not saying your property, your property, your property. I'm saying we do have homes in this city that are not being maintained. So it is affecting the overall tax base of our city. So anyway, onward. Number 11 is a request from mayor to enter an agreement. Bye, Steve. Thank you so much. To enter an agreement with iWork Systems in the amount of $75.50 for building inspection, shelter rental, and pet licensing software. As I stated in the memo that I sent out to you all, we have had the Permit Express, is what we call it, since it was built for us by a local resident here back in 2011. In 2015, he got a completely new computer system, and it no longer, he couldn't support our software anymore, so he stopped supporting it. Well, we all know that with all software, after 7 years, you start seeing a little things change. Like, you know, if you issue the permit today, it says it expires tomorrow. We can't change that. And like I showed you in the email that I sent you, it worked fine in 2015, maybe even 2016, or you'll be working and it'll just stop and it freeze. And, you know, it's not like you can call your IT people because it was designed. It was literally designed for the city of Evansdale. Actually, Raymond has the same software as well because they did purchase it as well. He was going to continue on and go to other cities because it was very affordable for us. So this company, we for a good year and a half or two, we've been sitting in webinars and looking at different software since Dana has started with us, and also we did get Steve involved. We looked through each individual, you know, probably 3 different companies. You know, some of them are just completely unreasonable, and they have a good bang for the buck. It also offers offers to our customers to be able to go in there, because there is a portal that they can go in there and check their building permits. They can check and see if they've been inspected. So it's kind of a hand in hand. It works with the community as well.
Is there an annual reoccurring fee after the initial investment?
There is. It was on that sheet. It was 45.
Yeah, I thought
4,500.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And that's each year.
Yep.
And how long? I mean, do you know, Mayor, like this system, if it went by with us for that price, and it's going to be 4,500 a year, is this a system you think going to get longevity out of it, or are we going to have the same story we're having with Permit Express?
Well, it's first of all, it's cloud-based, so it's always going to be renewed. So we're logging into their system. So it's not in-house. It's a system that we're
Subscription
logging.
model.
Subscription model.
Yep.
And you really think it's necessary for building inspection, shelter rental,
Well,
pet licensing?
my concern is we are required by the state of Iowa to keep all of our building permits forever. They're permanent records in the city of Evansdale. Yep. Permanent record. Yep. If you ever want to see that, just look at State of Iowa retention policy. Permanent record. So anything that holds permanent records, we do not want them to fail. My concern right now is that the software is gonna fail. We're trying to keep it up as much as we can and scan it into our other software. You know, so if it ever did happen, we wouldn't be at a complete loss. You know, but there is days that go by, or days that we get busy, days that we write a lot of permits or whatever, that, you know, maybe we're not as up to date as we can. I mean, Dana's been doing a great job of staying on top of it.
Can I
Go
say
ahead.
something?
Yep.
I think another thing too that I really liked about this system is it helped with the efficiency of the building inspection process. So I mean, as you saw, like Steve is really, really busy, but
We can't hear you.
can you hear better?
No, your mic isn't on.
Can you move up front, Kelly?
It is.
Just a
It's
second.
probably the only venue you got.
Okay. But one thing the software does is it does track the process of the building permits. So with Steve being part-time, a lot of times he doesn't do things at night. There's sometimes during the day, like we can usually get a hold of him, but if somebody calls and asks a question, I can log into that system and I can show where he's at in that process, and they can also look at it as well. And so it's a lot easier for us to keep on track with some of these permits because the software not only supports it, but it's reliable. That's really the only thing I have.
I'm sorry, I don't know why that was.
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
No, thank you. Your opinion is
Mhm.
Log
important.
into it too, or no?
I mean, it's open. From what I understand, like if you put a permit in, you can log into it. Are you wanting like a demo to look at,
Well,
or
just like, let's say we wanted a report or something. I mean, I know we get them, but
Yes.
could we go in and,
Yes.
and see it or something?
Yes.
If I didn't.
I don't know about if we can. I mean, we could check into that. It doesn't. You know, it's not the end of the world if we don't approve it tonight.
Yeah.
We can check into whatever you'd like us to check into about it. But I do know you can, like for code enforcement, and I mean, it'll give us status reviews like right away. Like, so right now, like as Steve was saying, he's got like 15 of them that he's working on. It's like he needs something to keep him under control, because then you got, you know, because it's a really long process for the city, you know, once you send out that initial letter. So it would be nice to have that, and he could have it right on his tongue. So, you know, whether he's going around, he can look and write updates. He could put updates in it when he is, you know, stops by the residence or what have you. So, and if you would like to have a, any of you would like a demonstration, we'd be more than happy to set that up.
All I can think of is like if somebody, like a resident called Steve and said, hey, or, you know,
Yeah.
they were over here, Steve could look it up, or
Right from his phone.
yeah, and say,
So he
yeah,
could
well,
give him a live update.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like he stopped over.
Yeah, he wouldn't have to be here to
Yeah,
do so.
it also tracks the property too. So if he's out and about and he sees a property, he can look at that property and it'll show like any past citations that we've issued on it. So that way he can just do all of his work real time out in the field versus having to come into City Hall
Yeah.
and have me or Deanne look up the history on a property. So.
And we were actually in the process of sending pet license. We didn't do that yet, did we?
Nope.
The
Probably
pet
last week.
license reminder postcards out. And, you know, we could license upwards of 350 pets in our city. And this would work for our code enforcement. They could log in. They have lifetime too. So I think it would make us all more efficient as a city.
I'll
So
make a motion to enter into agreement.
I'll second it.
Got me talking into it.
It's so right.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Ron.
Let's fall asleep.
Sometimes I can get on my
Hey, I like you.
bandwagon.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, you should have. I agree with you.
Number 12, approval of the consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 12, approval of the resolution calendar. Take a motion to approve.
I'd make that motion to approve the resolution calendar as posted.
Second.
That'll be a roll call.
Siebel,
Yes.
Smock,
Yes.
Bergman,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Osborne.
Yes.
And number 13 is going to be swearing in our new Sergeant Newman. However, we have already done that, so thank you and welcome aboard. I do just want to make just a small side note. You know, our I don't know if you noticed, but our street crew did 3 nice sized patches on Lafayette Road. They did a most excellent job. They were also able to, yeah, exactly. And they took a lot of crap for it. Because people were upset. The ones that are most likely are complaining about that street, they were upset that we closed it off for 2 days. Yeah, we got a lot of flack about that. There was a lot of flack on Facebook about it. So if people say anything to you about these things, let them know we're working on it. But, progress takes time.
Are we gonna?
But I
are
wanted
we-
to.
We gonna do more of them now yet this year? I mean,
Not this year. I mean, obviously with the weather, unless we have an Indian summer again in November.
What happened with the weather?
Well,
As long as I can keep a straight face.
It was 70 degrees last week when they were doing this work, and it's wait, it snowed like 3 inches today.
I'm glad to see
So-
they started on it because we've been talking about it for ages.
Yeah.
So I am happy to see they went on and started it. I
Yeah,
just
you
hope
should
we-
drive over that really
Oh, I
nasty
have-
one.
I have
Okay,
already, yeah.
okay, good.
It was very well done.
They did a fantastic job, and I really appreciate them. I also want to just point out that we saved around $22,750 on the Central Avenue project by our guys doing. They set the mailboxes up. They coordinated the waste for the carriers for the waste. They dug out they backfilled, they seeded, they had to do some like curb work or landscaping type work. Just all in all, said and done, we saved $22,750. So I want to commend you for that too.
Did we save $22,000 some dollars if they do it for nothing?
No, they
We
didn't
have
do
to
it.
subtract
No,
that off.
right. I know, but our cost was minimal. I would say, what, Chris? Did we have more than 5,000 in that? No, we were able to do it for under 5,000.
Now you're down to 17, that's more.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
Come on,
I'm just
Ron.
saying-
We saved a little bit of money.
I mean, we did
We
have
got a
to-
little bit, right?
But I appreciate what they do. I appreciate what all of our departments do. In this time and age when we have just so much violence and so many things going on in our world today, we have a great police department. I consider our police department guardians. They're looking after us. So, and I feel the same way about our public works department. So, just want to let you know, I have a great appreciation for what our employees and staff do in our city.
That's appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Mayor.
it. I mean, I don't want to not say that.
Okay,
Exactly.
okay,
How do you
yeah,
follow
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Sorry, guys. Just,
So, council, do you have anything to report at this time?
No, I just want to thank the departments that go above and beyond when they do. It is well noted. I mean, I drive around, I'm retired, so I look at things, and I think they do a good job. I'm just looking for bigger and better things as we move into the new year.
Okay, no other
Holiday.
comments?
Well, I was just holiday next week. I hope
Yeah.
everyone can enjoy Thanksgiving
Yes,
with their
happy
family and
Thanksgiving.
friends, and I know we don't see it till after, but
Yes.
For
And
what
we'll
it's
plan
worth,
on December
happy
3rd, meeting
Thanksgiving.
at 5:15 again-ish.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
I
no,
hope
that-
I didn't
no, you
carve
didn't.
again.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
there it is.
Well, you're quick on that.
All in
tonight,
favor?
Ryan.
Aye.
That's my birthday.
Opposed?
Who seconded? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Who
Yes,
seconded?
he did.
Steve? Okay. All right.
Ron,
Thanks,
Steve.
guys, I appreciate you. Well, it is 5:15. Welcome to the special city council meeting, Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, 5:15 p.m. Thank you for coming tonight. We'll go ahead and go into our roll call.
Smock,
I am here.
Bergman,
Here.
Nichols,
Here.
Siebel,
Here.
Osborne.
Threw you off, didn't I?
I did. I did.
This is our budget workshop. We will be discussing the police department and their budget this evening. Chief Dean is here and ready to answer any of your questions, I'm sure. So let's just get started. I know you guys have probably had time to go over the preliminary stuff. And then I put an updated budget sheet on your, right there on your area, your desk or what have you, because I forgot to include the increase for Stephanie. So we've got that taken care of now.
My first question would be, Mayor, unless, are we in that motion? Did we say the Pledge of Allegiance?
No,
We're not
we
gonna
will
do-
the next meeting.
Oh, okay. I would, when I first got your sheet here from a few days ago, and I looked back at what the salaries were, and I did call and ask for them, and I got them, is that I'd like to know why Chief Dean thing that we went by on the union contract negotiation was one annual pay raise, and the proposed one for 24 budget is way higher, and we've had no dialogue or conversation in reference to that I'm aware of.
Well,
my
that's
first
what a
question.
budget meeting's
Okay,
about.
so
Yeah,
this is just to
we're-
look at.
Yep.
Okay,
We're having
okay.
the budget meeting right now. Ultimately, you guys approve that. What I did consider is, since he didn't get the raise for, like the rest of his staff, I don't know if you know this or realize this, but our chief has put in a lot of hours this year, covering staff. Unlimited, he's been going to a lot of training sessions. You know, he's training new people. Well, right now he's training 2 new people with Engel and Epley. So he's had a lot of shift in his department this year, and I really totally believe that he shouldn't be shorted. I gave him what the police officers received, the 216, and then the 2.75. And, you know, just so you know this, in the last couple of years, city staff, basically management, Chris Shares, myself, when I was city clerk, Chief Dean, we actually took a cut in pay back in 2020, if you remember right. Every other one, city staff was getting their regular union raise of was 3% at the time, and we took a short at 1.5. So those are all things that I've taken into consideration, guys.
No,
Because there's not a gal here.
I'm just saying, when you look at this sheet that come over, and then to try to figure this out, I know we're not going to decide this tonight, but then when I'm looking down, what's the update on Cass? Is he out and gone, and his numbers pull out of here? Is he coming back and going to be a number going into the new year?
Even if Cass doesn't come back, we still have to have that position. I mean, obviously, it would be a lesser amount because it would be a new hire. So, well, not necessarily.
Potentially, I was going to say, if we can hire one.
Not necessarily. If we
Right.
hire somebody that's certified already, which
Yep.
which we all know saves us a ton of money to hire someone that's already certified.
And then I'm just going on your proposed sheet, Mayor. Then
Yeah.
I see under Ben Newman, there's no dollar figure in for annual salary. So the top of the sheet left me very confused when I looked this over. And I did a lot of studying on this. I'm not for cutting. I'm looking for being fair and what it's going to come out in the end. Those are my initial 3 questions that I have, that I am in the blank on, and at this point I can't really say or agree on anything when I don't have all the correct numbers. And I understand what you're saying about Chief Dean. I know he didn't get the thing that was in the discussion, but he is salary. It is a different situation entity than the hourly. So I guess that's going to be up to the council if we're going to waive that and go above and beyond what it should be under the salary. So I guess that's all I'd have to say on that right now, till I hear from everybody, and then we'd have to meditate on this a while, I guess.
Okay.
And Steve, where'd you say you didn't see Newman's pay?
Right, on this sheet we got there's nothing on Newman on this proposed budget sheet that we got Thursday.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No annual.
I'm showing no annual on his overtime.
I guess, yeah, so it's basically a breakdown between 3 columns is how I'm interpreting it. His annual salary is
Sure.
line 2,
I'm sorry.
right
Oh,
under
I
Chief
see.
Dean.
Yeah.
But like his annual is right
And then
here.
it's just showing separate columns for his overtime. And
Yeah,
then
and that's-
GTSB underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like they basically just broke it out where they could have put it in and just left it in one column, but they just give us an extra line item for,
Because they work overtime and GTSB overtime. Those are two different things because the GTSB, yes, we do budget that, but that's paid and reimbursed by the state.
I see it on the second line, but is that, I mean, I guess my last question on that right now, is that his salary? And I seen the resolution of $29.97 an hour, for being promoted to sergeant. Is that what his annual salary would be at sergeant, or?
That would be, this is effective July 1st, so their contracted increase was 2.75.
and this looks like it has him at $30.75
That's correct.
for the proposed.
Right.
So yes, I would say that would be as sergeant pay plus the increase,
Mm-hmm.
is how I'm interpreting it.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, that's what I need to know on those three things for right now.
Can you increase that part-time and cut the overtime down by using the part-time?
Chief, you want to come up to the podium and answer questions? Hi, Christy.
Hi, son.
You weren't too far off.
I was going to say, you did pretty good.
Oh, my car broke down on the way home.
Oh.
Oh, no.
There might have been here. Pushing it.
What's the question?
They had asked if we can decrease the overtime and increase the part-time wages. Because right now we have part-time wages at, say, for round figures, 6,700, and overtime at almost 15,000.
And you pay a time and a half and over 40? They get time and a half
Yeah,
over 40?
over 40,
So it'd be more economical to use the part-time where you're not paying the overtime.
Well, I think there are some stipulations when it comes to the union as far as when you can apply part-time hours to cover full-time. And I don't remember the exact wording, but you can't cover full-time hours with a part-timer for certain, like holidays and stuff
They
like
would
that.
have their hours, they would have their 40 hours, this is overtime hours.
Yep, yep,
But the holiday, chief, that is separate.
okay.
That is
Yeah, I
a
mean,
separate
it's
thing
always,
altogether.
it's always our hope to use part-timers, that's the reason we have them, to bring down that overtime
As
cost.
far as the amount, doesn't mean anything then, as far as you could use the part-time to fill in instead of the overtime.
Well, that's the intention, that's what they're there for.
Yeah, but they don't have very much down here for part-time and you got,
Well, and also, the traditional schedule that we normally work for 10 hours, 10-hour shifts with that floating officer, Officer Womachill. The purpose of that position was to help reduce overtime, which we feel that it greatly does. But that's when we're at full staff and running like, operations are normal.
if you use the part-time help at what they're getting, you don't have all the benefits and everything on it, you save quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. That's the whole point of the part-timers. The problem is those part-timers also have other jobs, and trying to get them to work sometimes is a challenge. So,
And that's where we also tried to combat the part-time wage to bring it up, to try to incentivize them to do exactly that.
Part-time first, if you can't get them, then,
Yeah.
but if you can get them and if they'll work, then you're saving a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I think that pay increase was a substantial one for the part-time. I'm hoping, and hopefully Chief Dean can, report back, and we don't know until we do, we have the data, but that was the hope, is to show them that, hey, we're not trying to get you in to necessarily save $1 per the hour wage, but we still save money because, we don't have the benefits or anything else, and we still get that coverage to try to take the overtime down some. That at least was my thinking of the hope.
You'd save a bundle.
Mm-hmm.
well, this last year with COVID and a lot of the challenges that we had, I don't know, it's kind of a it's not a traditional year, so to speak, like you would normally
Right.
expect. You
And
know.
to, and to compare that and to think we can just leave all this behind us, it would be great, but we don't know what the future holds.
Yeah.
No, I understand too that if the part-time can't work, you gotta have somebody work. But I would give them the choice first, and if they can't work, then we're saving that much.
Yeah, that's what we do. We, when we have hours available, we put it out to the part-timers first. And if we can get coverage, great. If we can't, then we have to, obviously we need coverage, so.
Well, all I was doing is looking at here what was proposed for part-time, for 2 part-time officers, $6,000 or $6,000. That isn't very much to include somebody to come to work.
Well, that's something we could always adjust if we're gonna come up with a bottom line when we decide to. Doesn't
Yeah.
have to stay at that. We can ask to find out part-timers if they'll work more hours, so we can lessen that burden. That's something we can ask in the end before we approve this. And I agree with you 100% what you're saying. Cause you're not paying them benefits, you're not paying them, the overtime they're probably never gonna get.
Yeah, no
And I think we need to look at, I taught this since we went through
the same service.
Pardon?
I said you're saving quite a bit in benefits and wages, and you're still getting basically the same service, because they're supposed to know what they're doing, they went to school, so.
No, I agree with what you're saying. I want, Mike, one question I have, are we working 4 10s now or 5 8s?
We're working 10s.
We're on 10-hour shifts.
We are. With me in the rotation. The only way it works right now with the staff that we have is if I'm in the rotation.
Now, my question I have when you say the rotation, how it works, we're not short any officers. We have as many now as we had whatever you want to call
No,
it.
I would
No,
disagree with
One.
that.
we're short one.
One.
Yep.
We're short
Yep.
one.
Officer sheets.
But now if you're on the road or whatever, that kind of equals that, right? Do I not make sense there at all?
Yeah, that's why I have to be in the rotation in order for it to rotate. And Officer Epley, who's a full-time officer, is not covering shifts yet. He's still in training.
No, I understand that. He's just a new hire. I understand that.
Well, and we just recently hired, back to Counselor Nichols, we just recently hired someone that could give us more part-time hours.
Yep.
In the past, we haven't had that person. So now this is just something new, and it appears through the payrolls that he is taking
No,
quite a bit of hours.
Yeah, I understand that. If the person can't work, then
Yeah.
if he's not available most of the time when you need him, why have him? Get somebody that can.
I agree with you 100%.
But he's had difficulty getting those
Yeah.
positions filled in the past, so.
Hiring an officer is more difficult than just hiring for most, jobs.
And the pay was part of that. Through many conversations I had, even with the part-time one, I was trying to, when we all were trying to figure this out, when it was 18, 19 bucks an hour, and they go, I can just sit a private gig at Dan Deere, at John Deere, at whatever, and make 30 and 40 bucks an hour. Why would I come and do to Evansdale? So again, we're not 40 bucks an hour, but we at least got them in line with what our starting officer pay was. So we don't have the data back because we're just starting that, but the hope is that's exactly what that wage increase was for, is, hey, come work Evansdale. Yep, exactly. Come work Evansdale part-time for us to help not only alleviate the full-time, because they need time off too. It can be stressful. It can just lead to burnout and everything. But also then, it does save the city money by reducing our overhead and overtime.
Another thing that I have proposed, just kind of in some conversation outside of these meetings and whatnot, is I'm interested in trying to come up with some sort of a way to pick my words carefully here, but to try to encourage our part-timers to work more. Because, full disclosure, the truth be told, when you have a part-timer who only works every 3-4 months, law enforcement is changing, and our technology is changing, and we're going to be updating some of the systems we use, and we're going to have part-time officers come into work who aren't going to have a clue how to do some of this stuff.
Right.
So that's important also. We want to make sure that they know what they're doing when they're in here working.
Right.
I agree, if they're not available most of the time, then what good are they?
Yep, absolutely.
It's,
My question I have with the
if they're
incentive we just
available,
went
then
in.
use them, then we're ahead.
My question I have now, we're talking about incentive, is if we made this new rollout 2 months ago, are we advertising now for part-timers online or wherever you're doing it and letting them know that the incentive package is a lot better than it was? Or are we not made a move on that since?
Well, I don't know that we're advertising right now. We have to go through the civil service process, so I wouldn't say that we're hiring all the time, so to speak, because I can't just hire somebody off the street. You know, they walk in and they say, I want a job.
Right.
I have to go through the civil service process.
I understand that.
So,
But if we have this incentive out there, I'd like to see us be promoting it to see if we get another person that comes in and says, yeah, hey, yeah, for the benefits, the incentive now, part-time, yeah, I want to look what happened with the one that came on and said, yeah, he's really interested in wanting to do it. There's got to be somebody else out there that would meet that criteria and help overall what we're talking about, this whole package. That's why I asked, are we actively seeking more part-timers and with the benefit package out there?
well, so are you proposing that I hold a civil service testing every time I have somebody walk in the door?
You're responsible in charge of that, Mike. I don't know how you would do it if one comes.
Well, we usually typically set up like a Saturday. They have to come in, they have to do a physical agility testing, they have to do an actual written test. They have to go through a civil service interview boards. There's a series of steps. So, I mean, if you're proposing that I do that every time somebody walks through the door, there's a lot involved there.
Well, I'm just trying to figure a resolution, how maybe we can be proactive a little more going after this incentivized thing that we put out there to be advertising. I'm not saying you got to go through it with one, but like the process you went through and a bunch of people came in, if you do it again and you weed it out like you're saying that, you know, okay, here's part-time, this might fit, we might come up with another part-timer. And in the same token, it's going to kind of relieve some of the conversation we're having about salaries right now.
I mean, if you're suggesting that we set a date down the road to hold another testing for the purposes of hiring part-timers, we could certainly do that.
I think it'd be beneficial myself.
I was just going to ask, it's kind of that happy medium, Chief, and then to Steve, whether it's a biannual date or a quarterly date. That way, it's scheduled, it's recorded, it's easier for you to plan for, it's easier for others to be on the lookout for.
Well, it's kind of a standard practice anyway. I mean, you don't hold them every time someone walks in.
Right.
Departments and fire departments hold them, you know, probably like 3 times a year, right?
Probably more so now because it's difficult to find.
Sure, but it's
applicants,
not every time someone walks in.
Typically, in years past, you would see agencies hold them at least once a year. Now it seems to be more as the need comes up for applicants. But in the past, it's just been kind of an annual thing, so they had a list to choose from. So, yeah, we could certainly do something like that.
Something like that works, Steve?
But we have a list right now.
How many are on the list right now that you would say are current people that are going to go forward? I've seen a list last month of 10, and now unless I'm confused, on the one that come out just showed Ben Newman's name on it. Or
That's a different list. That's for sergeant.
Yep.
It's separate.
Did any of the 10 on the list a month ago meet your qualifications that they can move forward with anything?
We hired one. I take that back. We hired 2.
And I believe
the vast majority, and I wanted to avoid really speaking on this too much, but the vast majority are not people that are qualified, in my opinion.
And to be fair, Mike, were they seeking full-time? Or were some seeking part?
There were some that were seeking part-time, but most were looking for full-time. Yeah.
So the list got smaller real quick.
Yep.
Do we have to pay the schooling for part-time and full-time both?
Yeah, they have to go through the academy if they're not certified, yes.
And there's a stipulation in there that if they don't fulfill the contract, they got to pay it back.
Yep.
I think that's something we should take a look at and set dates to have it periodically so we know we're trying to get another part-time.
We have a list now. We have some that we've hired and are working to get them on the streets. We could probably set something for in the spring, early spring maybe.
Because the list has to expire? Is that, I'm pulling from way back
memory? Yeah, that's
memory.
a good question. I'd have to check and see what the rules are on that. Because typically a list lasts a year.
Yep.
So I don't know if the rules are that you have to exhaust that list first before you can test again.
Okay.
But if we've exhausted that list and there's no hires on there, in your opinion,
Yeah, that's-
then we could move that up.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
certainly
like I think what you're
possible.
alluding to is technically if you've exhausted the qualified applicants, you've exhausted the list, you can start over.
You could
Start over,
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting
There you
at.
go.
Yep, I think you're right.
I'm at a council meeting, so I can't, tell you, okay.
Can you silence that, please?
Huh?
Can you silence your phone?
I just put it in my pocket.
In other words, off, Ron.
Anything else?
You guys have any other additional questions for Chief at this time?
I believe so. I think overall, Mayor, you know, it stated just to kind of come a rough number, we're looking
Yeah.
at a 9% budget increase. That fortunately or unfortunately lines real close to what our inflation number is. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in the positive, we're not seeing an overage beyond inflation, which is great. The other mix then is just how do we combat inflation? And some of it we hopefully can, and some of it we're not going to have any choice. I wish I knew a Saudi Arabia connection, something with some sort of real high powered, what they call them, kings or whatever they got over there. And I don't. So I'll keep working on that though. Find somebody down in Venezuela that wants to give up a big oil mining rig and we'll just pipe it right into the city. But
Yeah, that's some of your larger increases. If you see, current budget's 14,000 for fuel, and it's up to 22,000. So that's a huge increase.
and that's again,
And
we can hope,
utilities.
we
Yeah,
can
and
hope
utilities.
that it goes back down and that our budget looks a little better come the end of the year. But we have to plan the other way. So we just need to plan again, and we have a squad car figured in this year. So we've got a large capital expenditure ready to go too. So that'll fluctuate every couple of years.
Is that gonna be a 4-year rotation on the cars, Mayor?
8, right?
I guess I'm not sure what the agreement was, or what the thought was.
Squad cars
Sounds
I
now.
mean, in years past, it's been every 2 years. But
Yeah, it's been every 2 years. And we got behind back in 2013. That's why we have so much old inventory.
I think there is some
Yeah.
concern about having an older fleet, because we start seeing a lot of bills, so.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question, Steve. Is it
Well, I'm
how
just
often
looking-
are we buying a squad car, or what is the life total that we are keeping a squad car
It's either a 2 or 4-year window, I guess, and we're
of one we're
turning
purchasing?
the car over, so I understand that. But my question is, when I've looked at the police budget every year, even past mayors, is the overtime line never goes down regardless. I know one year we had the Black Lives Movement was going on, and Troy had spent a lot of money for police all over everywhere. That's why it went up. So we look at the budget going forward, we're requesting as much again in overtime. So how I feel as one councilman, the 4 of you don't feel that way, that we're not attempting to do anything in the overtime line item. We're just status quo, putting it in there. That's what we've done. That's what we're going to continue doing. Salaries are going up. We talk about the economy. I think there needs to be a little give and take on this rather than just cookie cutter stamping every year when a budget comes out. That's my concern on the overtime line item. I mean,
That's where the overtime, if you go the way I suggested, or use the part-time, you can cut that overtime.
and that's something I think we need to have communicated by the chief to make sure the part-timers are willing to do that. I'd like to see that we could get that cut down some. I'm not asking for it at all. I understand that, but I've never seen any decrease in overtime in all the years I've been
Well,
on the
and I
council.
think the chief alluded to that, you can't get the people working.
But I just want to be clear, we turn to the part-timers first when we have shifts that need to be filled. We do that. And when they're not available, then we have to turn to the full-time.
Yeah.
The only thing that drew my attention to it was the line item was so small that it wouldn't even be worth coming into work, if that's all you were gonna spend out. There's something there too, you can be a part-time or full-time, and if you were part-time and you only got work 2 hours a month or something like that, I mean, it wouldn't be worth shining your shoes for.
How is this overtime figured? Is it just an average of the year before?
Yeah, and if you look at it, because Councilor Siebel just said we've never went down on that. Well, if you look at FY21, it was 22,159 actual. If you look at FY22, 16,537. That went down quite a bit. We reduced it for this current budget year down to 14,000. So I disagree because we have went down in our overtime budget.
So what's this actual column mean? The $6,709 then?
This year.
It's just what we've done so far this year?
Yeah.
That's what it
Yeah,
is?
Yes.
year to date.
Yeah.
And then so the current budget is 14,000 and we're looking at increasing it to 14,850 for 20 or for the
Right, because if you look at that, the actual, that's only for 1 quarter. So we are at 6709 in 1 quarter. And again, that's due to lack of staff. You know, we're hoping that will level out, but I don't have a crystal ball and I can't predict the future. So it's better to plan for the worst, and hopefully it's not.
I guess, yeah, it's going to come down to us at the table here to decide, do we accept where it's budgeted and hope it comes in under, or do we take it away and then have to worry about an amendment later?
Right.
I mean,
Well, because
that's really,
the first quarter is 6709, and if we have 4 quarters, then we're going to be at 24,000 by the end of the fiscal year, which means we're going to be way over budget for overtime by $10,000.
Right,
Which
but
is
we're,
acceptable for this year, I know, because
Yeah.
of the consequences. I understand that part, but
yes.
maybe we need to look at how we're figuring this dollar amount, and do we need to refigure our overtime figures? I don't know. Like, I don't think it's probably in the budget to probably go and increase it, but we need to probably look at something like that to.
Well, I'm hoping that we don't need it.
Yeah,
It might be.
with
I'm
our-
hoping that
with
we
our
don't.
new- with our new
I'm
hires,
hoping that we
if
don't need
get
it.
them out working, hopefully we won't.
Yeah.
Same way, and I've got it on the squad car, why do we just budget for 1 or 2 years? Why don't we have a budget every year for squad cars, and every 4 years you got the money already accumulated to buy one?
Yeah, we could do that.
That would be a simpler way rather than asking
Right.
a whole bunch of tax money in 1 year.
Right, and if you're going to make that change, you want to make that change when we get rid of two of the oldest ones, because then we're at 17. Then our fleet is only 5 years old. Right now, our fleet is almost 10 years old with those 2 vehicles in our fleet,
Well, that way you got money and you buy one every, 4 years or whatever you buy one.
and that could be part of our capital planning.
So
Yeah.
To me, it'd be a lot cheaper and a lot easier on taxpayers because you don't have all this big
Right.
bunch all at once.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Alluding back to squad vehicles, do you prefer to have like one style of vehicle across the whole squad, or?
No, I don't necessarily, I mean, I do like the Durangos, I think that they're a good vehicle for our purposes. I'm not opposed to looking at other, it's been proposed to look at a truck. We attempted to price that out. I called Cowell and Hudson, and I was told that those were not available as of right now.
I did send all the council that state bid,
Oh, okay.
and it actually shows closed.
Yeah, okay.
I did reach out to Gabus,
Yeah.
and they didn't even take the state bid this year, which is very unusual, by the way.
Yeah.
And he said Stryver did, so I reached out to Stryver and haven't got a response yet.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not against looking at other options.
yeah.
I mean, what works best for the department, I guess, is really what
I think the Durango has fit pretty well, to be
Okay.
honest. We've kind of seen how things went with the Charger. The Charger was kind of a fad thing, I think, and to some degree, a lot of agencies were going to them. I wouldn't say that we had great luck with Chargers. We spent a lot of money on some. I think the Chargers are kind of going away overall anyway. But I think the SUVs work pretty well. I see that across the board with a lot of agencies. So.
Is it fairly easy to re-outfit it from one vehicle to another, or do you have to have whole new systems?
Well, I don't. I've never outfitted them myself personally, but I mean, I think some of the stuff can be used from one vehicle to another. Obviously, from a Charger to a Durango or something, there could be some changes, but
it's all the interior. It's been years ago, but when Kent was chief and stuff, I know there was one I helped him through just so that I could learn. And it's all down to Daimler Chrysler or Chevrolet. The moment they change body styles and give you more cab room,
Yeah.
your cage doesn't
Yeah,
fit
yeah.
anymore in those. But things like light bars, generic lighting, radios, that's just as much to come back out and be put right back in. You might just have to buy some different brackets.
Well, and that's a place to save costs too, if we're talking about saving costs. You know, we try to get a similar vehicle so that every time we change it, as long as the body style changes,
Yep,
it doesn't change.
exactly. The
Yeah,
chance
we can
is-
keep our budget down, changing.
As we look to get rid of possibly 2 vehicles, I think, is what we're looking at. Some of that stuff we'll be able to reuse.
Yeah.
Some of it we won't. And some of it, if we can't use it, maybe we could sell it to somebody else. That's a possibility.
Anything else?
So what is our, we look at this for a couple of weeks and come back and tell you the bottom line figure that we want to put in for a final? Is that what we do?
Well, at our next meeting, which will be on the, what is it, the
That's straight up.
3rd of December?
Yes.
We'll have it again at 5:15 and we'll go over the fire budget. And then at the next meeting after that, I don't know if we'll do it on December 20th, it's the holidays. So it'll probably be the first meeting in in January. And then we'll go, through Public Works. So,
Steve, to your question, I don't think we have to necessarily have an answer or anything. This is just more pre-planning ahead of time so that we're
Yeah.
not bombarded January 1. Okay, budget season, make your decisions. So
That's
it's
what I
giving
was
us some more
asking.
time.
Right.
When the decision had to be made for the police budget is what I was asking.
Normal budget
Right.
year is my
Okay.
understanding.
That's
Our
what I need
budget
to know.
planning.
That's what I need to know.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
But Dan, the simple question I have here as the mayor is, because you're very good at what you do on this stuff, did you look at any line items that you felt that could be cut? I know we're just talking about everything up because of society or whatever. Did you go through here and really scrutinize and say, well, we probably could knock a few here, a few there? The car thing with Rhonda, I mean, we talked about that. I mean, I think we need to move forward with a car. We wouldn't probably get it till, I don't know, Mike, I didn't ask Mike, if we were to order a car, Mike, when would we have it? Would we have it mid next year, or what's the outlay on that?
Just off the top of my head, if the recent history tells us anything, it will probably take a while. That's my best answer right now.
Meaning, and I
Like
know you
we
don't have
probably-
a year.
I would say we'd want to get it ordered the
Yeah,
sooner the better, maybe
the
like
sooner
in
the better,
April,
'cause it has definitely taken a while.
March or April, so. But to answer your question, Counselor Siebel, if you look at line item, starting with education training, we went from 5,000 down to 2,500. We cut the budget 2,500 there. If you look at reserve training, it was 500, we cut it down to 250. GTSB stayed the same. That's just one class that 2 people go to every year. And that's a requisition to be part of the GTSB program. We stayed about the same for building, grounds, and maintenance. Couldn't do anything about gas and oil, couldn't do anything about Mid-American. Kept the vehicle operational equipment down at 12,000. That might be something that comes in lower, you know, because we're going to have a newer fleet. So, you know, we may be able to lower that down. I'm just not certain yet if we want to do that, make that change.
I was wondering, on this dispatching contract that we pay
Yeah.
the county, is Elkhorn Heights, are we paying Elkhorn Heights or are they paying a separate fee?
No, Elkhorn pays their, well, we pay, no, Elkhorn pays their own.
So we're not
Yeah,
paying.
Elkhorn pays
I
their
was gonna say,
own.
otherwise
They're on the
it's
list.
Probably amounts to more than what we're getting.
Yeah,
No, and we pay that regardless if anything goes through Blackhawk
right.
County Consolidated
Yeah.
Dispatch Center. So
Well, and, you know, we're looking at that as a whole for the dispatching contract. We're looking at it as a whole, as a community, Blackhawk County. because that budget is increasing. So we're looking at some different things to do as well that might help our city in the long run. So
No, that's a lot of money, and I
It's-
didn't know if Alpine Heights was covered under that, or they paid their own.
they pay their own. Yeah.
Because we're the ones that's giving them the service.
Right,
As far as police
exactly.
protection. And ambulance, they're using Waterloo, so we shouldn't be paying anything on that, or fire.
No. Mm-mm. So yeah, we did really look at it. We
I'm
talked
just-
about, part of, just for one example, and, Chief verified the information was, we had always put a substantial amount in education training because that's how they purchase their ammo every year. So, they evaluated that at this time, how much do we need for that? What do we need for education and training? And it's, we're mandated by, say, our work comp carrier. We just went through a work comp audit. We are mandated by those carriers as our insurance company to have this training. So, it'd be great to say, yeah, let's do away with it, but that's not a reality either. But we did reduce it, so we're working to do that.
What kind of, I don't know how I want to answer the very question is, as far as part-time, if they get hurt on the job, who has to pay for that?
That's covered under our work comp.
Work comes out there, and
Yeah.
work comes out.
That is.
Not yet.
Well, we have a couple of minutes until our next meeting starts. I just want to know, I put a packet, Christy had sent over a couple purchasing policies for Solon and for Ankeny. I also looked through one for Waukee. Our next meeting isn't for 3 weeks. Hopefully you guys will have time to consider all those policies because it will be on the agenda. I think budgeting and this policy goes hand in hand.
Thanks for finding that. You like Waukee better?
I really liked Waukee. It really
I-
spelled it out
Did they?
specifically.
Cool.
Yeah, more so. And some of those are subject to change. If you look at I think I gave, like, that code 26, chapter
Yeah.
26 of the Iowa code,
Yeah.
that changes every year.
Does it?
Yep.
Great.
What your horizontal and vertical.
So then we'd have to tweak it to
Yeah,
match it.
yeah.
Can't make it easy for us, right?
No. Be nice though, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'll email that to you if I didn't put it in your packet. Did I put it in your packet?
This? I don't.
No,
think
the,
so. Code 26.
The horizontal and vertical.
I was just
I'll
looking at
email
it,
that to
'cause
you.
can't really
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Also, I sent you guys an email regarding one of the items that's going to be on our agenda, but I also wanted to let you know as far as that software goes for building inspection, but that water trails project for River Road, we ended up getting another grant that's almost going to completely pay for that project. The grant we just received is for $262,320.
Ooh.
Yeah. So total grants for that project equal $352,320. That's how the state is really pushing for the water trails project. So
Okay, we can afford gravel.
Yeah.
That's it. Concrete's still up there.
You couldn't get a boat down the river right now if you tried.
No.
Oh yeah, you can.
it
You're
would
just
have to
pulling
be
and
a
pushing
kayak.
really
It
hard.
would have to be a kayak
Or
it
on
would
the
have
trailer.
to be a canoe.
Shovel and shovel.
Yep, or on a trailer.
Mayor, if the 262,000 is from what now again? Water trails?
That was our DNR grant, wasn't it?
It was actually part of the, DNR, but as far as their water trails projects that they're funding right now.
And where does the balance come from on that then?
The balance?
Yeah, to get it up to 352,000?
We got a REAP grant, which is 75,000. And then the design grant, which is 50% grant, so it was $30,000 grant for design. So we'd get 15,000 of that.
What's the maintenance on that? After they get it all in? They pay to get it all in, and what's it gonna cost you to maintain it?
I don't think we've ever finalized any plans to know that
We
yet,
haven't.
because we didn't know about the money.
It's not a discussion. It was just something that was budgeted for this year. I don't have that on the agenda because I need, right now we're in the process of doing a RISE grant certification because that is required in order to even move forward. So I'm still working with the engineer on that and getting a quote to the council for that. So I was just pointing it out because it was funds that we had budgeted for this year.
Looks like, do we need to adjourn formally the budget workshop?
I believe so.
Okay. I just didn't know, unless anyone had anything else, someone who, that way you had a quick recess. So,
You got 4 minutes.
a motion for adjournment?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?